Hey everyone, welcome to another Reality Skewed Gamers tutorial video. I am Findy, a figment of the Sith. And this is particularly important today because what we're going to go over is Phase 1 with a Savage lead. Now with the recent changes to Kylo Ren, a lot of people have found more utilization in Savage Opress as a solo character for Phase 1. Now Kylo Ren can also solo Phase 1 still, but unlike before, he only gets about 2 escape attempts per attack round. So if you don't escape within your first 2 attempts, you're basically going to have to restart. So it's a little bit of a slower process. The same process applies to Savage Opress and has been available since the beginning, but because it was so much slower, Zylo or Zeta'ed Kylo Ren was the focus. So today what we're going to go over are the basics of a Zeta'ed Savage attack in order to solo Phase 1 and how you can utilize it in order to solo your AAT Phase 1. So let's start by looking at Savage Opress's abilities. His first ability is Overpower. Now this one is not going to be as critical as his Zeta'ed ability Brute, which we'll discuss next. But the Overpower can come in handy throughout this battle. His Overpower will allow you to do massive damage to any target below 50%. This is particularly helpful against the 2 IG-100s as well as the B2 that's with Grievous in Phase 1. Now, the other time this becomes useful is that all the other droids are at 100%. Zavage's special ability does more damage than his basic ability. So, you will want to use the Overpower early on Grievous in order to do extra damage. And then you can go ahead and save it up as the other droids start to go down in health, so that when they taunt, Savage can take them out pretty easily. His main ability that makes him viable to solo Phase 1 is his Brute ability. And this is his unique. And when you Zeta it, it goes from a 50% chance to a 100% chance that he will gain 30% turn meter whenever he is hit. So, this is why Savage is able to get his escape up relatively quickly, similar to the same way that Kylo Ren used to. So the way that the mechanism will work is that Savage will get hit, he will gain 30% turn meter, and so basically every time he gets hit about 3 to 4 times, so 3 times he gets hit, he'll gain 90% turn meter, plus that 10% may get filled based on the different speeds and turn meters of the other characters. So somewhere between 3 to 4 hits, Savage will get full turn meter and will be able to attack. This will allow his escape ability to go slower on cooldown, so it'll come up much quicker than a regular character. So now that you know how his abilities work, how do you go ahead and attack this phase? So the first thing is that you want to hit General Grievous as hard and as often as possible. This is where the damage is being dealt in the phase, so you want to avoid having to hit those side droids and aim for Grievous when the other ones are not taunting. This will also be important because you don't want to auto on basic this particular attack, because after the IG-100's taunt, or if the B2 taunts after Grievous uses tactical maneuvering, the taunt will remain on B2, and if you're on auto basic, it's going to continue attacking that droid until it dies. So do not do auto basic, even though Savage can solo this phase. Next is going to be make sure you're monitoring the hit points of all of the droids to decide when to use his special. So this goes to his Overpower ability. Make sure you're looking at when you use it to take out a droid versus when you're using it to do extra damage to your Grievous. The next one is the escape attempts. Now, with the usual timing of how Savage will gain turn meter, you are looking at an escape attempt roughly when Grievous is around 9 to 10 rounds left until enrage, as well as about 3 to 4 rounds left until enrage. So those are going to be your 2 times that you're going to be able to try and escape. If your escapes fail, now escape is going to be the button towards the bottom left of the screen, where you're going to be able to use it as an ability to try and escape. And as a note, B2 can ability block that, so make sure you do account for that and do not try to wait until round number 2 with only 2 enrages left or 1 enrage left, because if you get ability blocked, you're going to lose that escape attempt. So make sure that you're looking at that. It can be ability blocked, but with around 4 rounds left, you'll want to try and escape. If your escapes fail, then you will go to the top left of your screen, go to the gear icon, and retreat, and basically start your attack all over again. So this is where the RNG happens. There's a 40% chance for you to escape, so two attempts, it gives you a decent shot, but it's definitely far from guaranteed that you're going to be able to escape. And the last thing is, make sure you're attacking in airplane mode. Airplane mode will help you do your attack, and even if your Savage dies due to bad RNG, the damage will not post as long as you're in airplane mode and you restart the game before you go back onto your Wi-Fi or your internet. So the next part of the attack is something that I know you've come to love about these videos. It's the math part. Now, there is some aspects of math. This isn't too intricate, but it is something that will help you know where your Savage Opress is. Now, I ran a bunch of different tests in order to try and figure out when the best balance is for all of these characters. And for Savage Opress, what I found is that first off, speed is not needed. He is pretty much gaining his turn meter from his unique ability, where every time he's getting hit, he's gaining 30% turn meter. Not to say that it should be avoided, that you want him slower, but it's not something you necessarily need to focus on. So you can focus more on trying to increase his damage, and if you can increase his speed too, that's just a general plus, but it is not the primary focus for this attack. What you will need to focus on is health, first off, and then you can focus on the damage. You do not need protection for Savage in this attack. The protection will go away within the first few attacks, and then Savage will be solely reliant on his health and his heals over time. Because of that, protection increases from mods do pretty much nothing for the longevity of these attacks. Because remember, you're going to be retreating or escaping, and then going in again and again and again and again. Protection will be gone very early. It is a useless statistic for this attack. Focus on health. In order to figure out how much health you need, what I did was, through a bunch of different attacks, figure out when I got kind of really close to dying, and using that as kind of a basis to figure out, okay, my Savage doesn't need more health right now, he can focus a little bit more on damage. So the formula that I used was health times 100 divided by 100 minus the armor. And if that total is greater than 36,000, then you are at the right pace. So to show you about my Savage has 25,324 health. When I do that against his 30.29% armor, his total becomes 36,198. So 36,198 is greater than 36,000, so my Savage is ready to go with this particular build. So that is going to be one way you can figure out if your Savage has the health in order to survive this attack. This is based primarily on the crits. I did have one chain where I got massive crits by Grievous against my Savage and he barely survived. So that is kind of the threshold that I use. So this kind of gives you a little bit of a safe buffer. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't use airplane mode, because things can always go wrong. There can be multiple attacks. You can get bad RNG in terms of if you have full turn meter and another droid has a turn meter that's also full, they may go before you with the coin flip. So do not just rely solely on this. This is just kind of a calculation that helps you know my Savage is ready to go for phase 1. In terms of mods, there's two things you can do for mods. The first thing is focus on critical chance. Now, critical chance will help if your Savage is maybe borderline for survival, and this will allow his basic ability to do offense down on General Grievous, which can increase the survival of Savage Opress over multiple different runs. If your Savage is comfortably safe with the hit points and doesn't really seem to go to the point where he's below 20% or below 30% hit points, then you can go to the offense mods. And offense mods will help increase the damage he does per run, which will increase your standing on the leaderboard. So make sure that you're looking at these two as the builds. If you don't have the health, then ignore the critical chance, ignore the offense, go for the health mods if you're trying to use your Savage. Remember, the first goal is to meet that first health criteria, where you take your health, you take your armor percentage, and if it's over 36,000, then you are good to go with your Savage. So let's go ahead and take a look at my Savage Opress here. So my Savage Opress is currently at gear 10. The stats that I used in the previous slide with the hit points and the armor are based on my Savage Opress. So I got my Savage Opress kind of to the minimum needed in order to meet those requirements of 36,000. And let's take a look at the abilities and the mods. So starting with the abilities, the one ability that isn't as important but does help is his leader ability. Now, with the one-person team, he will be in the leader ability. He will be giving himself this bonus. And the extra defense and tenacity does help to resist some of the ability blocks and some of the dots that may be coming his way. So, if you can, Omega's Savage's leader ability, it is not necessary, but it does help with his survival. Again, it's going to be kind of critical that you Zeta his unique ability, so he gets that 100% chance to gain 30% turn meter, which is critical for this attack. We went over Overpower, which is his ability to basically deal massive damage to anyone below 50% health, which helps him kill the side droids, and it is also more damage than his basic, so this is also a nice one to have for a damage deal against Grievous. In addition, if we look at his basic ability, so his basic ability is why Crit Chance was suggested as a possible mod set. It can inflict offense down for 2 turns on whoever he attacks, which is primarily going to be General Grievous. So this will also help in his survival during these phases. Now remember that this is kind of a slow attack, so while you want to maximize the damage, you have to make sure that your character can survive for all of the attempts that it's going to take. So this is why on my Savage Opress, I went with the critical chance set. Again, he was kind of borderline on that 36,000. He was above 36,000, so he wasn't going to be hopefully in any danger of dying. You do want to use airplane mode just to be safe, but my Savage Opress was safe, but just to make sure that his survival was there, I made sure that I used critical chance just to try and inflict that offense down. However, in terms of the primary stats, I did focus on offense. So remember, you don't need speed, so my arrow had offense. If you look at his triangle, the triangle also had offense. And if you look at his cross also had offense. So I was focusing heavily on offense for the stats, although for the sets, I went for critical chance. Now, when I get my Savage to gear 11, I will probably switch all of these to offense. However, for the time being, my critical chance did help me do everything I needed in phase 1. So let's go ahead and watch some of the attacks now. So I'm going to speed up this attack so you guys can kind of watch what is happening. But essentially, I am focusing my Savage on General Grievous. I'm landing some offense downs on him, so he's taking less damage from Grievous. His protection is essentially gone now, and what's happening is that as long as another droid is not taunting for Grievous, I am attacking General Grievous. Now, what you'll see here is something important. This is the airplane mode that I was telling you about. So now this is on the iPhone. It may be different for you if you're on the Android, but essentially it's basically going to pause here because when I turned on airplane mode, it cut off my Wi-Fi and stopped my AirPlay for my recording. So I'm going to pick up the recording here again, but just so you know, you don't want to have your Wi-Fi on, you don't want to have your internet on, just airplane mode. I'm going to do something bad here and turn on the Wi-Fi with my airplane mode. Do not do this when you're doing your attack. So as you watch this speeded up attack now, what you'll see is the health kind of changing with Savage, the different attacks that are used, when I use my overpower. And so the strategy is pretty straightforward with Savage. It just requires some time. You'll need to make sure you escape. Hopefully your escapes work, otherwise you need to retreat. So it's just kind of a long drawn out process. But it's the same thing over and over again. So I hope you guys know how to do this now. So I'll leave you to watching the rest of the attack. that concludes our Zavage, our Zeta'ed Savage Opress Phase 1 AAT solo video. If you guys have any questions, please make sure to put it in the comments of this video or hop on the RSG Discord, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. And otherwise, we'll see you next time.